Hi. So this is going to be the first book review on this channel. So, I'm trying to have like 10 points per book and then a rating. I haven't rated it yet, but these are my points. Yeah. So the book I almost dropped it. So the book that we're rating is a series of unfortunate. This is the wrong one. It's this one, The Bad Beginning. This is the one that we're rating today. So I read it in like 2 or 3 hours. I know it's a long time, but fight me. So the first point I have is the tragedy. So the book opens up and they're having a good time at the beach, and then this mysterious figure that we soon learn later to be Mr. Poe, but we're not to him yet. They get bad news that their house is burnt down and that their parents have died, their whole house to the ground. And of course, now they're orphans, and so Mr. Poe is a bankerman. He works at the bank. And he's in Baudelaire's. Oh yeah, that's who this is about. The Baudelaire children. I forgot to tell you that. Oops. So there is Klaus, Sunny, and Violet. Violet is the eldest daughter. Klaus is the middle child, son, and then Sunny is the baby girl that's smaller than a boot, as it says. So yeah, there's those characters that I forgot to mention. Anyways, so point number 2 is Mr. Poe. So, like I said, Mr. Poe works in the bank. He's in charge of their affairs. Like, I don't know what's the right word for it, but he's in charge of their fortune to live. And according to the will of their parents, they wanted their kids, if anything happened to them, to live with a family member in town so they didn't have to, go through a bunch of stress of moving to a different town and stuff. And so the closest relative, which is my point 3, the distant cousin, he is Count Olaf. He's an actor, and he ruins the actor name because he sucks. Anyways, so he is either, in the book it doesn't say that it's true, he's either a third cousin twice removed or a second cousin 3 times removed. Something like that. So he's a very distant cousin, and the reason they had to go live with him is because he's the only one in, close enough in the vicinity for them in town. There's one. And point 4 is useless chores and abuse. So like I said, he's a terrible person, and he makes them do a bunch of useless chores. He made them chop wood, and he didn't even use the wood. And then he smacked Klaus across the face for no reason to entertain his theater troupe, which is stupid. So a bunch of things happen, and pretty much the deal with Olaf is he wants the Baudelaire fortune. And it's apparent from the first time they meet, he's like, oh, well, I can just fix my house with your money. It's very apparent that he wants their fortune, and so he's trying to do anything and everything he can to get their fortune. So that leads me to my next point. Things look up? Nope. So he goes through this elaborate ruse to try and get the fortune. So remember, this dude's a terrible person. He hates them. And they wake up one day and find that he cooked them breakfast. A good breakfast. And asked them to be in a show called The Marvelous Marriage. Well, they don't see anything wrong with it. They can't figure out what's wrong with it, but they try. They're like, this is sketchy. I don't believe you for a minute. So, point 6, unveiling the plan, which is a fail. So they go to their neighbor's house, and they read a bunch of books about marriage and stuff, and fortune and stuff like that, to try and unveil his plan. And they can't fail the plan. So when they're at the neighbor's house, one of Olaf's little buddies goes over there and says, "Hey, why are you reading that book? Blah 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 blah. I'm not trying to I'm trying not to spoil everything for you, so I'm keeping it as vague as possible, which is why this is a terrible explanation, but get over it." So they stay up all night, and Violet finally figures out, no, it's not Violet, it's Klaus. Klaus finally figures out what he's trying to do. And he goes and confronts Olaf the next morning before telling his siblings. first of all, that's not what I would do. I would tell them first. I wouldn't even tell Olaf that I know his plan. I'd go straight to, Mr. Poe or the judge, which is their next door neighbor, which he got into play. Like, I wouldn't confront Olaf if I knew his plan. So that leads to Sunny being captured. The baby sister, she's captured. That's my next point. She's locked in a cage, on their tower, dangling very high up. And they're like, oh no, that's our sister. You can't do this. You took my little sister and she's gonna die. And he's like, well then stop you can't tell anyone that you know my plan. I will get your fortune or she will die. So, they're kind of screwed. So Violet has this brilliant idea because she's very inventive. She loves to think about different scenarios and stuff. She loves trying to, I don't know. So she builds this grappling hook. And how she manages to grapple all the way from the ground to a tower makes no sense to me, but she did it. But that was a failed rescue, which is my next point. So she fails at the rescue, and she gets hurt. So yeah. And then my next point, number 9, is lost hope. So Olaf figures out that she tried to rescue them. They get in big trouble. And then he goes downstairs and gets Klaus from his bed and puts him in the tower and locks him there until the show. So the show day comes, and they're like, oh my gosh, all hope is lost, which is my next point. All hope is lost, terribly. And, they go through the play, there's like 3 scenes, and then they get to act 2, and they're like, why aren't you dressed? You're supposed to be out, do you want your sister to die? I will drop her, I have a walkie-talkie that I'm going to be holding their entire show, and he held the walkie-talkie during the entire show, and no one even noticed. No one noticed. Anyways, so he was like, I will tell my buddy to just drop her from the roof, from the tower, and she will die. Pancake. Boom, baby omelet. So the show goes, and the deal, so it's the Marvelous Marriage, so he makes Violet marry him in the show, which is his plan. I forgot to tell you the plan. Which is his plan to get married so he can have the fortune, because if you get married, blah, blah, blah. So like that. You'll figure it out in the book. And so, yeah. So she ends up, they get to that act, and she signs the document with her left hand, it's all official, and he's like, okay, stop, everyone stop. There's no more use to go along with this show, because I have what I want. I have the Baudelaire fortune, and now you kids are gonna die. Y'all screwed. And then she's like, Violet's like, hold up. Well, at first they're like panicking because they're like, oh my gosh, why did they do that? We're so dumb, how could you do this? Blah, blah, blah. And then she's like, hold up. I signed with my left hand. I'm right-handed. So technically, if I sign with my left hand, that's not my hand. So that falsifies the marriage thing. So, Mr. Poe's like, how dare you? And you had this baby hanging from a tower. You're going to jail, mister. Straight to jail. So, it almost seems like they're going to have a happy ending. He's getting arrested. He's going to go to jail for the rest of his life. They're going to get to live with the judge, which they love. Nope. That never happens. So, the other plan, and he turns the lights off before he can get arrested. And, he escapes. But that's the other truth. It's like, I will be back and I will get that fortune no matter what. I will get my hands on that money no matter what. You can't stop me. And so, yeah. So that's pretty much a summary of the book. Obviously, go read it because I'm being as vague as possible with this book. So if I were to rate it, I'd probably rate it 4 out of 5 stars. Mainly because the storyline, it had a good storyline. It was just some things... There were some things in there that I felt didn't need to be in there. It was just extra information. So yeah, definitely go read the book yourself because it is an amazing book. So 4 out of 5 stars, there are my notes, and this is the book. The next one I'll be reading is the next one in the series, which is The Reptile. I'm about to start reading it now, actually. I'm going to put me some music in, and I'm going to listen to it. So yeah. if there's any more books, like any book recommendations you want me to read and rate and talk about, then do it. But definitely go read this book for yourself, because it is an amazing book, and there's so much that I left out on purpose so that you can just figure out more as you read. So yeah,